My name is Chuma Chini, and I am your family lawyer. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 1988, and I have over 35 years' experience in family law practice. I've helped countless families navigate Nigeria's complex legal terrain, and I am desirous of this knowledge and expertise to you, free of any charges. It's a new day, and I'm glad to be here with you. I welcome you to another episode of Your Family Lawyer. And today, we'll be talking about traditional marriages under native law and custom in Nigeria. It's quite boring to read about this in textbooks, but forget about that. Today, you will see where culture and law get really interesting. Because we're going to dive into the cultural significance of traditional marriages. We'll talk about the key elements of traditional marriage, like dowry and family involvement. And we even throw in a juicy story about a dowry dispute that had everyone talking as at the time it occurred. All right, so let's kick things off by talking about why traditional marriages in Nigeria are such a big deal. They are not just ceremonies. They are epic events that unite two families in bonds stronger than blood relationships. We're talking about serious cultural interplay here that brings one man, one woman, and then transforms them into wholesome families of love and of building generations. Unlike the suit and tie formality of statutory marriages, traditional marriages are all about customary practices that vary from one ethnic group or nationality to another. It's like attending different festivals, each one unique and vibrant in its own way. These marriages aren't just about two people saying, I do. They are about bringing together two clans, sealing alliances, and throwing a party that the whole community can enjoy. And trust me, they do enjoy them. Think of it as the ultimate block party, but with more cultural significance and probably better palm wine or gogoro than you can find anywhere in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. In many Nigerian cultures, these marriages are more than just personal commitments. They are socio-cultural events that involve elders, extended family members, and sometimes entire villages and communities. It's often a communal affair where everyone gets involved, from negotiating the dowries to dancing the day or night away. This involvement ensures that the marriage has the support and the blessings of the community, making it a solid foundation for nurturing family life. Now let's break down the key ingredients of what makes a traditional marriage in Nigeria. I would like you to think of it as the recipe for the perfect display of our cultural values. Over the years, from generation to generation, our payment, this proverbial consideration paid by the groom's family to the bride's family, has endured. It's not just about the money. It's a gesture of respect and of appreciation, a symbolic contract seal of our traditional marriages. Planning traditional marriages in Nigeria often comes across like planning surprise parties, like people acting in silos, seemingly unconnected acts, like planning a surprise party truly, but everyone knows about it. Oftentimes we play out scripts, like when the groom's family shows up in the bride's house seeking to pluck a flower. There is no flower, they want to marry your daughter. All right, but these ceremonies, from the Ijade Ebi of the Yoruba to the Ibanku of the Igbos, these ceremonies are the unique cultural symbols that make each traditional marriage exciting. They involve everything from public declarations to gift exchanges and blessings from parents and from elders. Now let's talk about dowry for a second. It's not just about handing over cash. You are not buying a product. It's a symbol of the groom's commitment and respect for the bride and her family. It can include money, often does include money, truly. But it can include exchange of gifts like livestock, like jewelry, wrappers, walking stick, caps, depending on what part of Nigeria the ceremony is taking place. But without the dowry, the marriage isn't legitimate in the eyes of many Nigerian cultures, and even before the law. Now, let me expatiate a little bit about family involvement. And Family involvement is huge, big. There is no traditional marriage without family involvement. It's a complete family affair. It's not a quick Vegas wedding when you go gambling over the night, a little drunk, and then you show up back in your business, realize you are married. This one, you must talk to both parents, and both parents must talk to their relatives, and everybody gets involved in the process. This usually includes initial visitation, knocking of door, the proverbial knocking of door, not just knocking at your door. They come with gifts and then they seek to make their intentions known. Both families are often in the pilot cabin, making decisions, ensuring that everything goes smoothly. The blessings of the respective families are not just nice to have, they are a must have. And as already mentioned, the bride's family must hand her over to the groom's family. And in some cases, they have to physically escort her to her husband's family's place. Sometimes it involves travel, sometimes it is done at the venue of the traditional marriage, depending, of course, on the culture involved. Now, let's look at a true life story depicting the essence of proving a valid customary marriage and the effect of not doing so. We'll tell you an enthralling story, a sad story indeed, of a certain Miss Alade, which underscores the inevitable consequence of failure to complete the traditional marriage process. You cannot do halfway and say you're married. It is not enough to do one thing and leave out the other. The process must be wholesome and must be complete. A man named Beckley, a Lagosian, whilst living in Lagos, became engaged to Miss Alade, also a Lagosian. He later left to Jos, and whilst he was there, at his instance, at his request and authorization, his father effected the Idana, or perhaps Idona, it's a Yoruba culture, effected the Idana ceremony in accordance with Yoruba customary law. Miss Alade thereafter continued to live with her parents in Lagos. Meanwhile, in the intervening period, Mr. Beckley met a certain Miss Abiodun in Jos, and they agreed to get married to each other. The legal notice of the intended marriage was given to the Registrar of Marriages in Jos. Beckley's father became aware, and then he tried to stop that marriage. He entered a caveat, as they say in law, on the ground that the Idona ceremony in respect of Miss Alade constituted a valid marriage by Yoruba custom and tradition. He claimed that because of this, the proposed marriage between Mr. Beckley and Abiodun could not hold, as it would be illegal. But the court discountenanced his objections and held that the mere performance of the Idana ceremony without a subsequent taking of Miss Alade to the intended husband's house did not constitute a valid marriage under Yoruba law, traditional law and custom. And so Mr. Beckley could freely go ahead and marry Miss Abiodun under the Marriage Act. You can imagine how this affected Miss Alade. She thought she was married, but alas, under the law she wasn't. Let's see how this played out in the court.
Beckley fell in love and became engaged to Miss Alade while living in Lagos. After their engagement, Beckley embarked on a trip to Jos, but they agreed to commence their marriage rites.
I'll miss you, babe, but do not worry. My father will finalize our Idina ceremony while I'm away.
It's all right. I will be fine, and I'll wait for you, Beckley.
Beckley arrives the serene city of Jos and settles in nicely. One day, while exploring the town, he met Miss Abiodun, and before long, they agreed to marry each other.
I never imagined I'd meet someone like you here.
Oh, Beckley, I feel the same way. I never thought love would find me like this.
Beckley and Miss Abiodun, having agreed to marry, go to the registrar's office in Jos to file their notice of intended marriage. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Beckley's father and other relatives had already met with the family of Miss Alade and performed the Idana ceremony.
How can my son Beckley bring shame to this family like this? The Alade family is prominent in this city and must not be embarrassed. The Idona ceremony must be recognized. I shall file a caveat against the intended marriage.
In a courtroom filled with tension. After representations by both parties, the judge delivers a verdict.
This court finds that the Idina ceremony, without Miss Alade being taken to the husband's house, does not constitute a valid marriage under Yoruba native law and customs. The couple must cohabit. Miss Alade was not taken to Beckley's house as customary. The Idina ceremony alone, without subsequent cohabitation, does not preclude Beckley from marrying Miss Abiodun under the Marriage Act.
At Miss Alade's home in Lagos, she sits by a window, reading a letter from Beckley, her face reflecting pain and disbelief. Miss Alade had waited patiently for Beckley, and now felt the sharp sting of betrayal upon learning of his marriage to another. She mutters to herself,
"How could he, after everything we've shared?"
And so, Beckley and Miss Abiodun were free to marry under the provisions of the Marriage Act because his marriage to Miss Alade was inconclusive. This story about a clash of love, choice, tradition, and modern law demonstrates how unattended loose ends in a serious contract like marriage could cause severe disappointment and grief.
You've heard of what it takes to be married under traditional law and custom. Now let's talk about the legal implications of thorough disputes in customary marriages in Nigeria. Traditional marriages are recognized by the courts, but this is only as long as the essential elements of traditional marriages are met. This means that if you don't pay the dowry, for instance, you might find yourself in hot legal water. And that's not all. Even if you make some payments, which might be considered as dowry, as in the case of Beckley, but your wife is not handed over to you like a Miss Alade, as required by customary law, and you don't cohabit thereafter as a husband and wife, the valid marriage process which can confer marital rights is incomplete before the law, and you might be said not to be married. Traditionally, courts will defer to customary law when it comes to our traditional marriages. They will look at the customs of your ethnic group to decide if the marriage is valid. If you don't meet the requirements, the marriage could be voided. This could lead to disputes over property, over inheritance, and the legal status of any children from that union. So whilst the dowry might seem just like a cultural thing, and the handing over of the bride may seem like modern day tease, just showing off, each one of them has serious legal implications, and skipping out on either can lead to inconvenient consequences, and believe me, even annulment of the marriage. I would let you know that in many cases, Nigerian courts will follow customary law, but they will also consider national laws. They will consider our constitution, for instance, especially the custom conflicts with constitutional principles like equity, like natural justice, and good conscience. And so if the dowry seems exploitative or discriminatory, the courts might have something to say about it. Let me round this up for you in a way that is easy to understand. Traditional marriages in Nigeria are not just beautiful cultural ceremonies. They have serious legal significance. And if you are planning a traditional marriage, please do your homework. Understand the relevant customs and legal obligations of the place of your spouse or the place of your husband or wife, depending on who is listening to me. If you're a man, please check out what the custom of the woman you propose to marry says. And if you are a woman, please also check out what his custom says. Make sure everyone is on the same page, especially when it comes to the dowry and handing over of the bride to her husband. This will be it for today's episode of Your Family Lawyer. Please join us next week as we'll continue our deep dive into traditional marriages and their variations in Nigeria. Until then, stay informed and please be empowered. And let me beg you, be good to your family. My name is Chuma Chini, and I am your family lawyer.